Good morning.
Good morning. It is bright and early on a Sunday.
How are we?
For context, Kate and I normally record these episodes several weeks in advance. However, the second I went on sabbatical, all hell broke loose.
It's been some weeks, man. It has been some weeks. There has been a lot.
Yeah, mostly that I just got really sick. So it was bound to happen. But, we're back. We're vibing. I still, have some stuff going on in my chest. But, we live. We continue on.
It is what happens. I mean, we always say this, and I'm surprised that this never happened, really. But usually you and I are, out for 2 weeks post-symposium with some kind of flu.
Yeah.
And it did not actually happen this year. We did not.
It didn't happen immediately.
It didn't happen immediately for you. It has
not wood,
happened,
babe.
It has not happened to me yet. But yes, let's just hope it's bypassed. The curse is broken.
Fingers are crossed. But hello, everyone. Welcome back to An Intellectual Life with Kate and Kaylin, where we are here to discuss lifelong learning and delve into the day-to-day of scholars in the making. So first and foremost, let's do a little bit of a weekly recap. So we are far past whatever goal we set in the last episode, but what was last week in your life as a lifelong learner? How is the research coming along? Give us an update.
Oh, okay. Last week was actually so good. I'm feeling so in the research at the moment. So in the last couple of weeks, I've just had a full clarity moment of the entire outline of the PhD.
Excellent.
I don't know what prompted it or why or what the sort of...
I mean, there is some curious timing in there.
There is some curious reckoning in there. But I just had this moment. I was in the library with Ezra, one of our accepted society members. Her and I go into the library, into the Trinity College Library once a week. And it's really great. We just lock in and focus. And we were in the library and I just decided to list out every single female villain in the Fairy Queen. I don't know why. I was just I'm a bit of a slump. Let me do this. Listed them all out. And then I just started grouping them. And then I just started grouping them into sins. And then I just started making links to virtues of Elizabeth. And I started making links to images of Elizabeth. And it all just kind of evolved into an outline, which is fabulous. So it was a really big breakthrough. And I'm very happy about it. And going forward, I do need to speak to my supervisor about it. But he is in the hospital at the moment with a paddle-related injury.
Oh, no.
The nature of the injury I cannot tell you, so we will just wait to see what kind of injury that is. But until he's back, I will just keep on keeping on. What about yourself? How did last week go?
Last week was very good. I ended up making a shift from working on chapter 5 to working on chapter 1. So they're the two remaining chapters that I have to write. And I basically put chapter 1 off to the side. And I've picked it up occasionally. I picked it up when we were at the writing retreat in New Haven. And I've always struggled because the source material I have had a really difficult time identifying and actually transcribing and parsing through. The basic gist is that the parish records of the late 16th century and very, very early 17th century, up to 1610, are just really hard to access. Partly because obviously they're hundreds of years old. They want to be really careful about who's accessing and touching and manipulating them. And I've just had a difficult time getting adequate scans. So I had gone to the London Archives well over a year ago, and I had gotten the microfilm scans, and they are illegible. They're really hard to work with. So I just keep avoiding that chapter as a result. But I just felt kind of called to work on chapter 1, and I was thinking about it. I was like, well, I have enough knowledge to actually write up the basics of the chapter. It's just that the specific examples I'm going to have to, include in a kind of retroactive way, because I'm gonna have to go back to the archive a few times in order to access those materials. And they've told me that I can get special permission to look at them, but I tend to avoid archives when I'm feeling a bit raw with the research, or if I'm feeling in any way like physically uncomfortable. So, for example, feeling ill, feeling like not quite up to the task of like sitting and leaning over a document for hours and hours and hours on end. But I think in the next week or two, I'll be able to go. So I just basically been writing up the chapter essentially as though I have the sources, even though I don't have as many specific examples as I would need to complete this chapter. So I have been working on the introduction, and the challenge that I've had with this introduction and this chapter in general is that, as I've told you many a time, it feels like the project of this dissertation feels so complicated, and it's trying to do so many things at once, and basically trying to weave all of these historical discourses and say that they should be talking to one another. And chapter 1 in particular looks at child labor and apprenticeship under the poor laws of Elizabethan England, and the presence of Black people in Elizabethan England. And I'm trying to say that you can't understand the need to enact the poor laws and the concerns over vagrancy and public good without understanding mass migration, or at least what would be considered mass migration in the early modern period into London. So I was like just working through that this week, and I feel like I finally have like a way to speak about it, because the challenge is anybody can say, no, I think that these two things should speak to each other, but you need to be able to identify why. And so I finally figured out exactly how to summarize the why, which is clarifying.
I love these moments of clarity, because I think I always come back to this idea that research, and a PhD in particular, is a degree in how to do the research, right? It's a degree in how to dive into this kind of research in in-depth detail and figure out how to pull together sources, methodology, ideas, all that kind of stuff into one big research project. And I think too often we get stuck in this idea that we need to have it all figured out straight away.
Yeah.
And that we have to know where we're going straight away with the research. It's really good to have like a direction, obviously, but this idea of discovery in the process is, I don't think, something we talk about enough in terms of but maybe that's a whole other podcast.
I do remember getting like warnings from historians in the early days of grad school where they're like, you're going to come in with a question, and that's great. You won't leave with the same question. There's no way.
I mean, my supervisor said the exact same thing, and you know, he hasn't really been stressed about the fact that I didn't have like a full outline. And I was like, why are you not stressed? Like, I'm stressed. Why are you not stressed about it? But yeah, it's kind of fun. It's really fun. I'm in the golden gilded, you know, it's fun stage. And talk to me in 3 years' time. It's gonna change, I know, but still.
You gotta soak it up while you can. Those little moments, those little glimmers whereby like the research starts to really make sense is just so exciting. I was actually on a brainstorm and write session for Accepted. I run them on Friday mornings, and I just started this. I had so much coffee, and I was like, let's start the session, and I was like, let's do this, guys. And and I got into it, and I was like, I think I wrote like 700 words in the first set, which is a lot. Like for me is a lot of writing to get done in a short period, but it was just flowing. And the best way I can describe the process of writing for me is it feels like it feels like you've got like liquid in a beaker and you just keep like trying to like push the like build pressure enough for it to like actually
come out.
explode. And I have been working on this introduction for like 2 weeks, just trying to figure out like how do all these pieces fit together. I wrote it a bunch of different ways. I started it a bunch of different ways. I was like, do I start with like Elizabeth and her kind of imperial efforts? Do I start with John Hawkins? Do I take and focus on an individual? Do I focus on the apprentice back in England? Like where's my in?
What's your kicking off point, right?
Yeah. And I just could not figure it out for the life of me for the longest time. And then finally, like this last week, it just boom, 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 just started to lock into place.
I love that. It was part of I had a very similar experience where I was kicking off my chapter 1, and I just started writing about Elizabeth, writing about her influence, her reign, and the development of her identity, the development of her image within early modern England, and how Spencer contributes to that. And I eventually realized this doesn't belong here. This belongs like elsewhere, in a different section. But I was like, great, I have this now. This is so great.
Yeah.
This, I can shift this around later. Those moments are really amazing. I just love that. I just love that.
Well, on that note, let's go ahead into the weekly digest and start with the first question, which is, what are you drinking?
Water. Just water today. I'm hoping I'm not getting I'm hoping I'm not getting sick, but I am feeling a little nasally. So yeah. So it's water.
I always say that if it's just nasally but it's not throat, then you're fine. Like it's just allergies. Oh no.
Anyway,
we're just wishful thinking. Okay. So it's been a few weeks since we actually got to record. So what have you read and what are you reading?
Okay. You and I are reading the same book, which I absolutely love. But like it's backwards. One more time. Hold on. Here we go. Christie-Anne Jones' Theodora Tea Shop was released like 2-3 days ago or something like that. I can't remember. I've been loving this. This has been so much fun. I am absolutely adoring the story. I'm not very far in, I have to admit. Like, I haven't been reading that much in the last couple of days, but I have loved it. I am really, really enjoying it. So I sorry.
Here, just a second.
So for those...
Hold on just a second.
So for those that don't know, Christie-Anne Jones is, she's on YouTube. She has been writing this book for a couple of years. Theodora's Tea Shop has been in the works, I think, for something like 8 years that she's been writing this book. And it is about Dot, who wants to go and be an apprentice to Theodora, who owns a tea shop and is a magician witch that wears many, many faces. And I'm absolutely obsessed with this idea. There seems to be a lot of things in here that I really like tension from the get-go. There's that sort of tense feeling of Dot's sort of dissatisfaction with her life and wanting to change it, and her sort of breaking away from the mold and going out on her own, even though she suffers from a chronic illness, and she really makes a big effort to take herself off to the big city and make a new life for herself, which I just think is very, very cool. Thank you, darling. I got coffee. So I've really been enjoying this. It's a lovely sort of light read. It's got quite a few dark elements into it. I'm also really loving, I know Christy is a big English literature fan, and her and I have had a lot of discussions about the Fairy Queen and things like that, and Gothic and folklorish literature. And it's so fun to see that coming through in the book itself. So I'm really, really loving that. But then I picked up, you and I actually bought this, I think we both bought this book in Oxford together.
Oh, yeah. I got it at Gulp Fiction.
Yeah. All My Precious Madness by Mark Bowles. This is brilliant. This is so funny. This is so, so witty. Have you read this?
I haven't. I got like 10 pages in and I had put it down because I wasn't quite in the right frame of mind. But yeah, I do have it.
It is
Sell me on it, Kate.
It's okay. It's so witty. It's so funny. I feel like me at my worst is this main character.
Ooh.
Like when I'm just in a really bad space, I'm like, when I hear a dude coming into a cafe talking about, like a tech bro coming into a cafe talking about all the monthly games and this and that and the other. I don't know why I did the voice. But, you know, all these kinds of things.
You're just giving me flashbacks to living in Palo Alto.
Genuinely. And I'm like, and you know, they order a takeaway coffee, but they sit at the cafe with their takeaway cup. I can't stand that. I don't know why it irritates me so much.
Interesting. I pretty much always ask for a takeaway cup because I'm assuming that I'm not going to finish it. I'm going to have to take it with me.
Which, you know, totally fair. That's fine. But, like, if you're going to sit there, finish your coffee and throw away your takeaway cup at the cafe, like, I don't know why that irritates me so much. But this is, like, the first instance that this guy talks about, like, in the cafe. And I'm like, yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate this so much. I think it's just a fun little ranty moment where I'm feeling like super duper bitchy about life, and I'm like, yeah, I'm finding kinship here.
Love it.
But basically, All My Precious Madness is the story of a man at odds with the world, a man who wants to escape his violent past, but who more emphatically repeats it. Henry Nash has hauled his way from a working class childhood in Bradford through an undergraduate degree at Oxford into adulthood and an academic elite. But he still can't escape his anger. As the world, and men in particular, continue to disappoint him, so does his rage grow in momentum, until it becomes almost rapturous and lethal. I know, I'm feeling the feminine rage side here quite a bit. I've got a couple of other books, but they're more for a bit later in the digest, so...
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I finished Rivals by Jilly Cooper. I have continued my Jilly Cooper kick. Okay, I have a bone to pick with YouTube right now.
Go on.
So I saw this review of Rivals because I wanted to learn more about Jilly Cooper. So I was like, obviously I'm going to go to my favorite search engine, which is YouTube. And there was one review of Rivals. And I'm going to be a brat for a second. I was like, did you read this book? I don't think you read this book. Because she got some stuff factually incorrect about some of the things that happens in this book. There are certain things that she does get correct, which is that, like, one of the things that I found really uncomfortable and I really didn't like in this book is that there's like an infatuation between this character, Rupert Campbell Black, who is also a character in Riders, and this much younger girl, Taggy, who is the daughter of Declan O'Hara, which is the other, like, main male character. That's the only part of the book that I was like, did this have to be in there?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff throughout Jilly Cooper, which the thing is that I appreciate that it's very honest. The only challenge that I have with this book in particular is that at least the depiction of certain abuses in Riders was never looked at in a favorable way or like in a positive light, whereas in this one I was like, are we condoning
this kind of stuff? Yeah.
Whereas what I appreciate is that when there's stuff that I would say is just genuinely politically incorrect, it's never placed in a way that is intended to be favorable. It's like, you know, this person is so ignorant and they said this thing and God forbid, which fair enough. The challenge that I had with this book is particularly like that relationship playing out. and then ending with them getting together, which yeah. That's the only challenge that I had with it, and I did find it like a bit distracting, but overall I really enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed Jilly Cooper in general. I really love that the way she is able to capture 70s and 80s British culture in such a way that I kept turning to my partner, who, if you don't know, is British, and I was like, "What does this mean? what is this?" And there were several times where I actually did have to ask him
what
certain
it
references,
was. Yeah.
etc. Or like, there would be something on the table that they would mention. I'm like, what is that? So
I'm so
really
curious now. I'm like, do you have an
I really
example?
quite enjoyed it. There was also like, I don't know if it's like, there's certain things that I don't know if it's a slur or if it's
an actual.
So I don't want to say it out loud. But there was certain words to like describe like a socialist.
Yeah. Okay.
Things like that.
Fair
where I'm
enough.
like, I've never heard that word before. What is that? Yeah. And in addition to that, I really appreciate that. Normally I pick up books because of setting.
Yeah.
Setting is really important to me. Character development is also very important to me. And Jilly Cooper, I will say, has the ability to make a setting that I otherwise would not have found interesting, would never have picked up the book, and actually makes it really fun and gives you enough insight and enough kind of world building in that industry to make you feel like you're immersed in it, but you don't feel like stupid for not having any context. And this is set in like 80s broadcast television. And again, like, it's not something I would have personally just on the shelf would have picked up. But after having read Riders and seeing how accurate she got the show jumping world, I was like, okay, I'm curious. So, I mean, Riders for me was a 5. For Riders for everybody else, I don't care to judge. This. In terms of like overall structure and character development and whatnot, I feel like it's actually more of a 4.
Less than Riders, right?
Yeah, it's less than Riders, but that's also because I have a personal connection to Riders.
Yeah.
But the storyline between Rupert Campbell Black and Taggy, I feel like it has to take it down to a 3.5, which is really like, it's unfortunate. The thing that I appreciate about most of the time in her writing is that things that I would say are in poor taste, lightly putting it, is always it's always framed in a negative way. It's not framed as something that is meant to be romanticized. But the fact that they get together in the end, I'm like, so I did really enjoy it. I'm gonna keep reading Jilly Cooper's books. I picked up Polo, which is the next one, but currently I am reading and trying to finish Edward Said's Representations of the Intellectual, because you and I are going to film a book review on this, and
I'm so excited.
I'm not going to get into my thoughts here because they're multiple, and we'll record that in the next episode. But yeah, it's based on these lectures that he gave. What was it in the 90s, 1993?
Through the BBC.
Through the BBC.
Which is so fascinating.
Or, as everybody in Rivals calls it, the Beeb.
The Beeb. Oh, no. The Beeb.
Beeb.
I can't not think of Justin Bieber when you say that.
Yeah.
The Beeb.
Belieber.
Oh, no.
And then I'm reading Theodora's Tea Shop, and I'm actually quite far into it. Funny enough, I was
Which chapter are you in?
Which chapter am I in? 17?
Oh, yeah, you're much further than me. Okay.
Well, in fairness, so yesterday we were meant to go to a music festival, and we did some pub hopping beforehand, and my partner left before me because I'm a lady. I had to get my hair done. I had to curl. I had to put some makeup on. Had to spend some time choosing an outfit.
Yeah, so fun.
And I was heading over to the pub, and it was like a bit of a walk. And so mind you, all of these people are like in Coachella level clubbing clothing, and
Good Lord.
I'm like walking through the streets of Greenwich, just like in my
Reading
book.
my book. Yeah.
Just walking along, reading my book. And so we went to the pub, well, 2 pubs, and then we ended up going into the music venue. And I'm standing like in line for the loos, which is just like the porta potty.
Yes, yeah.
Just yeah. So I'm standing there and I was like, well, I don't really want to just like scroll on my phone, so I just like cracked open my book.
Just read your book? Yeah.
I'm like standing there in this horrible line. Like reading my book, and then I couldn't find our group. So, and they'd said like, oh, meet by the merch spot. Yeah. And so I couldn't see anybody. So I was like, oh, fuck it. I'm just going to pick up I just started reading my book. So I did a lot of reading yesterday.
I love that so much.
My partner walked up and he's like, you're the only person here at a music festival that decided to bring a book.
Oh, okay. No, I will challenge that because I bring a book wherever I go.
As you should.
As you should. I always have a book.
I mean,
no matter what.
In fairness, most of the time I would not, like to a concert, I would not bring a book with me. Mostly because you can't actually have a big enough bag, but I decided that carrying my book was worth it.
That's so fair. That's totally fair. I'm actually just thinking now how ridiculous it would be if it's our annual Roundwood agricultural show today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is a big thing for our village, and I was just thinking how funny it would be if I pitched up, because it is an agricultural show. Let's clear this up. It's not a music festival. There's sheep at the show. And there's a bake sale at the show. It's an agricultural village show. But I was just thinking how funny it would be if I pitched up at the agricultural show with my book, just like reading along,
Yeah.
That would be hilarious.
No, my favorite flex is to walk through the streets of London just reading my book.
Just reading your book?
I do find that people will part.
Rebecca does this. My friend Rebecca will walk to work and read her book. I'm just so terrified. Like I'm ditzy at the best of times. Like, what if I like walk into a pole?
Well, then you just walk into a pole.
You walk into a pole.
I've done it many a time. But yeah, so I am really enjoying it. I will say I was quite surprised and I'm now a bit irritated in the reviews that I've seen of this book.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen any yet.
So I saw a few because she posted a video, like a Q&A about the book launch and whatnot, and said that some of the reviews that had come up so far were frustrated that this wasn't a cozy fantasy.
Oh, yes, yes, I did see that.
We talked about this a little bit. So I was like, okay, I'm just curious. I'm just gonna go take a gander. Man, some people on the internet are just fucking mean. Oh like I have a YouTube channel. Like I've seen it. I've been the direct target of many a terrible comment.
Oh yeah, but same. Yeah.
But I was like, guys, how did you read this book? Because I will say, actually, okay, question. Would you consider Howl's Moving Castle a cozy fantasy?
No, it's a fantasy book.
I would. Like, I would put it like up against the line. I would say it's not a cozy fantasy, but I wouldn't say it's not a pure cozy fantasy.
So maybe let me clarify in this space, because I'm not sure I've ever actually read a cozy fantasy novel.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There's like, there is a whole genre of it. I'm trying to think of them now, like off the top of my head. The one that's like the pumpkin spice cafe, or something like that.
Cafe, strawberry shortcake, whatever.
I don't know what it is. It looks intriguing, all this kind of stuff. Now, I just admit that I've never actually read any of those books. I don't have anything against them. It's just not something that I've been drawn to because, as we've discussed, I really like tension in a novel. And those novels don't have tension in them. Rightly so, because that's not the purpose of
I will say I
itself.
disagree. Like I've read a few.
You've read them. I haven't.
I've not read that series, but there was a book that was like heavily marketed as a cozy fantasy a couple years ago. And what I found, well, one, there was like mention of sexual assault in it, which I feel like should have been mentioned in advance. I should, but there were some dark themes in it. In which case, I felt like that was far darker than what I'm encountering with Theodora's Tea Shop. And also, so I don't think cozy is like absent of conflict. I think cozy is about setting. Like, does it feel atmospheric? Does it feel
atmospheric? Yeah.
Yeah, like, do I want to like wrap myself up in a blanket next to the fire and like read this book? And I would say like this book, like it feels that.
I would say this book fits that. I would say this book is actually ideal for something like that, you know?
I don't think that it's not a cozy fantasy. I just don't think that maybe it's what people consider
cozy
like
fantasy.
A pure cozy fantasy, in which case I would say a pure kind of cozy I would have to see like how people are actually defining it, but I would say like it tends to be a bit lighter in spirit perhaps. But every cozy fantasy that I've encountered, there's like some kind of dark element to it that's like disrupting the like the joyful
the whole sense.
The joyful, cozy, easy, communal like environment.
You can't just have it be happy-go-lucky the whole time. Like, there's no progression. You've got to have ebbs and flows in it.
Yeah, and you have to have some kind of enemy to that piece. And I think that this is that.
I'm really curious about this because she mentioned in that Q&A video on YouTube, the House on the Cerulean Sea, which so many people have recommended to me as a fantasy novel because it's been very well reviewed and it's well written, and because I'm me and I'm annoying, I really like a well written book and a well written novel, and so a lot of people have recommended that to me. So I actually do have it on my shelf. I think I'd be interested in like having a read of both of them and kind of seeing where it kind of sits. And then I had this thought the other day. I don't know if you've ever read any Ursula Le Guin.
I've tried.
The Wizard of Earthsea, The Dispossessed, those kind of books. She's not for everyone, right? Because she's heavy high fantasy.
It was the writing style for me. It wasn't even the world building. I tried to give Left Hand of Darkness a shot. And I was really struck, like the writing style just wasn't working for me.
Wasn't working for you. So I want to read Left Hand of Darkness. I actually pulled it from my shelf the other day because I just felt like I wanted a little bit of a different read. In a lot of the reading that I've been doing, particularly for the humanist readers, it's been very intensive and that kind of thing. Not to say Left Hand of Darkness wouldn't be intensive, but just, you know, a different direction, a different taste palette. And so I'm kind of curious now, off the back of Theodora's Tea Shop, I kind of want to do a little thought experiment and see what this relates to, because you and I, we both read fantasy. Fantasy was one of the reasons I got into reading in the first place. And I kind of dip back into it every now and again. So I'm kind of curious. Anyway, that's
the two books that come up when I'm reading is, I immediately feel like Howl's Moving Castle. And I know this wasn't like, I know she had it, maybe didn't read it or comped it, because it only came out like 2 years ago, but there was a book that came out that was called The Book of Doors. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It was like, it was a fine read, but the tone, the characterization, some of those elements feel very similar, but they're better performed in Christie's book.
Oh, I'm so fascinated now. I feel like this is another podcast we have to do is like on fantasy reading.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to what is your thought of the week?
Okay, I posted this on my Substack last night. There has been a quote that has been going around in my head all week, and it's been sitting in the back of my head, and I keep coming back to it because essentially I keep trying to disprove the quote.
Ooh, okay.
Because I'm curious. There's a curiosity behind the quote. So the quote says, "Truth without kindness is brutality. Kindness without truth is manipulation."
Shit, man.
Where
did this quote come from?
I don't know. I heard it somewhere, and I've heard it, I think probably in like the last 2 weeks or something like that. But it's been one of those quotes that just plays in my head now constantly. And I can't remember where I heard it. It must have been on a reel or something like that.
Yeah.
I tried to look it up. I tried to look up if there's like a who said
where the
it
origin
or
is.
Something like where the origin is. Couldn't figure it out because there's variations of it. It's like honesty without compassion is something, and you know, so it's obviously been adapted, or I'm probably even using an adapted version, but it came off the back of the whole discussion of Emily Wilson's the Honesty reviews.
Oh yes.
And I'm still formulating my thoughts about this, so I don't want to dive too deep into it. But I keep trying to think of examples that disprove this. And so far, I have not found an example that has disproved this quote. Which makes me think that, you know, we often talk, and you and I have spoken about this a lot. We often talk about the benefit of saying our piece and being direct and making, you know, and being clear about what our intentions are and what we need from people and all that kind of thing. And I think that fits in with that. It kind of comes back to this idea of the reviews, maybe for Christie's book, for instance. You know, is it brutal? Is it truth without kindness? Is it true? Yeah. Anyway.
Damn.
That was my thought.
No, I think that's very poignant. Because I have conversations all the time with my partner about, I mean, his family is very, very British.
Yeah.
And by British, what I mean is very polite.
Yes.
Very soft-spoken. They don't have the tough conversation. They say things directly.
No.
And I have this really great relationship with his dad. Like I feel very like he like, I mean, his family does feel like family to me, but in particular, I feel like this sense of like camaraderie with his dad. And his dad had made a comment to Henry at one point where he says, if anybody else asked me the questions that Kaylin does, I would consider it rude.
Yeah.
But because she says it in such like a kind and disarming way, and she's saying it in a way that is, you know, is genuinely opening up the door for a conversation,
right? Yeah.
Then you feel like you don't have, like, you do want to answer, you do want to have the conversation.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think a lot about that because I as an American, I actually didn't know that like the public perception of Americans was that we are like really direct. I didn't know that until I moved to the UK. Yeah, I didn't realize that was like a cultural thing that I had been raised to do, but it has to come with a generosity of spirit and kindness.
I think this is really interesting because again, I was trying to find examples that break this, right? And I was thinking about direct conversations that I've had with friends, with American colleagues and friends like that, and thinking to myself, well, are there elements of this that don't sit right? And I eventually I come up across two things, which is the core of it, is the truth and the kindness.
Yeah.
So whenever someone, and you and I have experienced this a lot being online and hearing and getting really awful comments a lot of the time. If someone is saying something that is untrue, the premise immediately fails.
Yeah.
Untrue to who is, adds a different sort of dimension to it, right? Is it untrue in terms of their perception? Do they believe it's true versus do we believe, like as the receiver of that comment or that information, do we perceive that it's untrue? But either way, the comment fails. The premise fails. The kindness, I think, is interesting because kindness is not something that's valued in society today. I don't see it as being valued in society today.
Not in a commercial capitalist society.
No. And it's something that I think it's something that's really interesting to dive into and for people to keep in the back of their mind, because ultimately a lot of conflict that arises from this lack of generosity of spirit, this lack of kindness that we are exhibiting to fellow human beings who feel and experience the world in the same way that we do. And so anyway, that's just been floating around my head at the moment.
Interesting. I'm also trying to think of like the definition of manipulation. There was a we both read Blood Over Brighthaven.
Yes. Yeah.
Emma Wong. Yeah. So the thing that really stuck with me about that book, and I think about this a lot, is that even if you did not intend harm in basically causing harm, that's the root of it.
Yeah.
And what I was just thinking about is it manipulation if you don't intend it? And I'm coming up against yes.
Yeah. Because it comes back to is it true?
Is it true? Yeah.
Is it true? And you cannot justify truth unless you know the other person's side.
Man, what a talk for 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
I'm sorry, it's just been running around in my head. I just think it's so poignant. I would really encourage everyone to think about this as much as they can.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with me. I would actually be really curious if you find examples where this premise does not hold up. I would be so curious. Please do put that in the comment. But I keep thinking to myself, it keeps playing in the back of my head. Whenever I am writing something or I'm saying something or I'm doing something, this premise plays in my head now.
Yep. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
My thought of the week. It's not nearly that. It's not nearly as thoughtful as yours. Yeah, so I've been on this sabbatical.
Yes.
And I haven't been on social media. I haven't been on YouTube, haven't been on Instagram. And I am finding, and I found this last time when the TikTok ban was announced and it looked like it was going to actually go into effect, I was like, I'm done. I'm taking a step back from Instagram and TikTok and whatnot. And in doing so, I noticed that the ways that I started to like entertain myself changed.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was watching a lot of video essays, or listening to a lot of video essays. Now I'm finding I'm reaching for my book more, but the one thought that I'm having, or the thing that I've noticed, is that, and I noticed this before, but I guess noticing it again is just kind of reaffirming it, that we have such a passive way of engaging with our loved ones, with our friends, with our family,
Yes.
with, you know, people that we've met online, and we call those things connections. We call those things community. But over the last, it's been 2 weeks since I made the announcement, and I've had FaceTime chats with my friends. I've reached out and texted with people I haven't spoken with in a while because I was reading a book that reminded me of them. And I'm finding that I am more intentional about those connections and reaching out and wanting to spend time. Like yesterday, I came home early from this music festival because I was like, I don't really want to be here. I would like to go home. It seems like
there was a vibe going on that was not really your vibe. You know?
Yeah, so it's quite funny because my partner was like, you can leave at any time. And I was like, could I leave now? I was like, can I just pull an Irish exit and just like go to the exit? He's like, what? He's like, whatever you want. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get myself a slice of cheesecake and then I'm gonna head on home.
Love me an Irish goodbye, man. It's the best.
It's great. And I got home and I was sitting there and I was about to start reading and I was like, oh, I kind of wish I could like read with a friend. So I texted a friend and I was like, do you want to FaceTime and just read together?
I love that. It's amazing.
And so that was really nice. And it's not that I wouldn't do that before, because I do think I do try to be very intentional about my friendships and reaching out to people. But I don't know, it shows you who your friends are. It shows you who you reach out to in those moments where you're just like, just kind of want to chat with a friend, or I'm going through a really hard time and I just want to talk to a friend, or whatever it may be. And I think that we often replace that human need for connection with this kind of artificial
glimpse into life, right?
But you do feel somewhat connected because you have this like passive way of engaging with your friends on social media. But just wanting to have more of a intentional approach.
I really like that because I think something that I found recently, and I was talking to I don't remember who I was talking. I was talking to Natalie of Talking Tudors podcast about this, actually, funny enough. But I hadn't realized how many friends I had, or how many more friendships I had developed because I had shifted away from corporate life. And I had started to become the person that I wanted to be. And so I was more genuine and more myself. And it was so much easier then to have those friendships because I was just being me and I was being the person that I wanted to be. And I never had to put this kind of mask of who I was supposed to be up with those friendships. And as you were talking, I was just thinking to myself, social media in and of itself is very performative. We are putting on particular masks to be on social media and to be present in social media. And it just made me think that in this break, there's probably a sense of reconnection with that, you know, the real Kaylin, the real Slim Shady, you know,
the real Slim Shady. It's showing your millennial today.
Kate. I know, I really am. I really, really am. Gosh, what did that happen to him? Anyway, that's a different topic. I haven't seen much of him in society lately. Anyway, you know, maybe there is a sense of like that reconnection with the space. There's a reconnection of like, okay, I've got this time now. I want to connect with the people that truly see me and acknowledge me and love me for the person that I am.
Yeah.
And not just the face that I'm putting out online, which I just think is amazing, because I will clarify that I don't think you actually put out a mask on social media. You show up very genuinely. But at the same time, you can't always be like, you never put your full self out there, right? Like, for protection's sake, more than anything else. Yeah.
Well, I also think that there is I say this to my partner a lot, and this is why I don't share our relationship online. The reason I don't share it is because it's ours. It's for us. Like, it's
quite right. Yeah.
You know, it's not something that is up for debate. Like, it's not up for observation. It is between two people, and I choose for that part of me to belong to our relationship, not to belong to public spectacle. And I feel the same about certain friendships.
Yeah.
And I also feel that about certain things in my personal life. I don't share stuff about my family. I don't really share stuff about my friendships online. You know, obviously, like you and I go on these retreats and things together, and we're seen in each other's content. But they don't see us up at 2 a.m, like having a late night chat.
No,
or,
exactly.
You know, that time that we woke up at 6 a.m. and decided to build like an essay guide. Like that kind of stuff is for you and me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that there's a performance to social media, in my opinion, when there are things that you do need to actually keep private.
Yeah.
And you then have to pretend as though that those things are not happening in the background. That's when I feel like that's when the performance comes into play.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the time I don't feel like I have to do that. You know, there's not stuff in the background that I feel like is affecting me that I can't speak about, or at least like allude to. And I would say that the difference is that most of the time when I am making social media content, it's that I have a relationship with my content. I have a relationship with the people that I've created content to be shown to.
Yeah.
But I also have other relationships in the same way that like the relationship I have with you is very different than the relationship you and Jono have, or the relationship that I and my partner have. And in the same way, I just feel like the relationship that I have to social media is another one of those relationships. And there's nothing disingenuous about creating those separations, but there are times like right now when that relationship doesn't feel like a priority.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's my thought.
I think it's a fact. Oh, so many thoughts. Okay.
Whole other conversation. Okay, what's your favorite of the week before we get into this week's seminar?
Okay, my favorite of the week, which is why I put aside some books, is that I've been self-teaching myself philosophy lately.
Yes.
This has been a long endeavor. This has been happening for months. Okay. I want to highlight that to everyone here. I am very slow reading Sophie's World. I've been reading this for 3 months and I'm not even halfway through. I just want to emphasize how slow of a read this is happening, because basically what I do is every single time I read about a philosopher or about a philosophical concept that I find fascinating, I end up going and doing my own research about it, going and reading the philosophy side of it more, and engaging with it in that way. And up until the point that I am now in the book, I have been really loving the idea of Stoicism. And so I've been reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and looking at that and trying to understand essentially the core of ancient philosophy, which I think is very fascinating, is that philosophy is not meant to just live in your thoughts. It's actually meant to be lived in the real world. Like, you're meant to embrace the concepts of philosophy and make them a part of your day-to-day life and your day-to-day living. I found this very fascinating. As everyone knows, I'm a big journaler, so I'm journaling every single day, and a lot of what I am coming up against while I am doing this self-study, and I think this talks a lot to what we spoke about when we spoke about personal curriculums, for instance, is actually there is a lot of applicability in this self-taught method that actually enhances your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
It's and I think this is what we try and get across quite nicely in this podcast and in Accepted, as the idea of an intellectual life, in the same way that exercise is beneficial for your physical well-being, therapy is beneficial for your mental well-being, etc., etc. Intellectual life and intellectual learning, no matter the form of it, is beneficial for your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
It doesn't just exist between your ears. It actually makes a difference in the way that you interact with the world around you and the people around you. And I think so many people are caught up with this idea that everything exists in your head and not actually in the way that we perceive the world. Someone asked me the question the other day, what is the benefit of reading literature? And
sorry, who was this person?
It was a comment online. Someone asked me, what's the benefit of reading literature? And I said, literature gives you an insight into worlds that you wouldn't necessarily live yourself, and it creates empathy. And in a world where we've just spoken about truth and kindness being a rarity, I think empathy is something that we as a society sorely need. And I mean, this talks the whole idea of like falling literature rates and things like that we've discussed multiple times. But yeah, I feel like the one thing I want to leave with this favorite is I myself am recognizing the benefit of doing this self-learning to my day-to-day and interacting with my friends, my family, people I work with, all this kind of stuff. It does not exist in your mind. It actually exists in your relationships and the way that you perceive the world.
That's delightful.
That's my favorite. What's your favorite?
My favorite is that you know this, but I don't think many people know this. For the past year and a half, pretty much every Sunday, my friend Andrea and I get together and we work on our novels.
I love that.
And I basically took probably a 6, maybe more month hiatus, because stuff with social media and the businesses and whatnot were so intense that I needed the time that we were working on our novels to write Substacks and edit content and that kind of thing. But now that I'm not doing that, I've been able to return to working on my project. And last weekend, I've been using so this is my research journal, and I was thinking, I am doing research for the novel, so I started writing out a little timeline, and
I love that.
Yeah, in here, and it's just been really fun to just work on a creative project, and it doesn't have a timeline. I don't have any expectations for it.
No deadline to it. Yeah,
no,
it's your creative outlet that you need, right?
Yeah, it's just been fun, and in having that space and working with another, Andrew has written several books. So she has, and she's also a writing instructor. So she has more knowledge of how to actually go about the process than I was just about to just open a document and just start writing the thing. So, learning about how to outline and whatnot. And it's just been really fun to have all of the ideas just kind of pop up naturally as I'm going through it. And so it's been my Sunday novel writing club, which now includes Andrea and Alex from Accepted.
I love that.
That's my favorite.
I love that. That's amazing.
So without further ado, we're going to go head into our seminar of the week. And this week we are talking about why is everyone so obsessed with the Tudors? We'll be back in just a moment, folks. All right. To begin this conversation, I must know, what was your initial introduction
oh my God,
to Tudor history?
It's so embarrassing. It's genuinely so truly embarrassing.
I'm curious now.
Okay, I'm just going to preface this by giving a little context of the household in which I grew up in, because I think this is important to note.
Oh God.
The household that I grew up in was not very, how do I say this in the right way? Truth, kindness. It was it was not it was not very focused on history or any kind of really intellectual discussions. My mum and dad both were working class individuals. They were focused on maintaining a good financial situation so that we survived, essentially. So we didn't have a lot of discussions about history or about books or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was the bookworm in my household and that kind of thing, but that wasn't facilitated in my upbringing. It wasn't necessarily something that was discussed. So my introduction to the Tudors was my mum's reading of Philippa Gregory's The Other Berlin Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she was absolutely obsessed with it. She loved it so much. And so I decided to pick it up and read it myself. And I thought to myself, well, this is really interesting. I kind of wonder if this is true. But now I'm like a 10, 11-year-old girl at this point when I read this book. I'm not fully comprehending everything that is going on. And then following that was the Tudors TV series that came out with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, who, let's be honest, that man,
he was fine.
He was fine. So that was my introduction, and I got really into watching the TV series with my mum. She obviously really loved it. I think you can understand why, because she loved the Philippa Gregory. She was really into the TV show, and I watched it with her. I got really into watching it when it was on TV. But it did start a section of my brain where I was like, is this real? Is this real history? Is this based on true things? Is this accurate? And the character that got me questioning was Cardinal Wolsey. He was the introduction for me. I was like, oh, this character's fascinating. He's like, is he good? Is he bad? I'm not sure. Let me go and deep dive into this. And that's where my fascination with Tudor history came from. And it's been an evolving fascination kind of ever since. But But yes, the introduction to it was by questionable means.
Oh, I can do you one better.
Oh my gosh, okay. Go forth. I'm so
Okay,
into
so
this.
I remember when my mom left my dad, she moved into this apartment. I remember all of her romance novels on the shelf, like all of the mass-produced paperback, lots
Mills
of,
and
you know,
Boons. Oh, yes.
lots of sexy scenes on those
Yes.
covers. And,
Yes.
you know, when you're like a 9-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old girl, you're like, what is this?
What the fuck is this?
And I don't remember when the other Boleyn Girl came out, so I don't remember if it was... There was some kind of popular mention of the other Boleyn Girl, and it was about the film either coming out or having come out or something, so I don't remember exact timeline. But I remember discussion about it in popular culture, and I was like, that's a book on my mom's shelf. I've seen that before. Seems like a fun and spicy book. I'm 9 years old. I'm gonna pick it up. And so I stole it from my mother without asking. And I took it into my room and I read it out loud to my sister.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Your
My
sister is
sister,
like 2 years younger than you.
Yeah, she's like 7 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And I just remember reading and I'm like, man, there's a lot of there's a lot of politics in here. I don't know.
You know what's fascinating is that the likelihood is that you and I are sitting reading The Other Berlin Girl at the same time in our lifetimes.
Isn't that crazy?
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness.
And yeah, so I just remember there was one scene. It was like a hunting scene, and I just remember being like, "My God, when is this going to end? When are somebody's going to kiss somebody? Come on!" And there's like these really in-depth descriptions of the house, and I was like, "Come on, like get to the plot,
to the juicy bits, right?"
So that was my introduction to the Tudors.
I love that. That's amazing. Oh no. Oh,
Absolutely
yes.
wild.
I remember that book so clearly, and
I kind of want to reread it as an adult.
I do kind of want to reread it as an adult, and at the same time,
I also know it's going to piss me off.
It's going to piss me off so fundamentally. I know more now. I'm not 9, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what started this conversation and why we wanted to have this discussion was that I was really curious about the framing of you remember like the trend, I think it was like a year or two ago, where it was going up to men and asking how many times do you think about the Roman Empire?
about the Roman Empire. Yes.
How many times per day do you think about the Roman Empire? And I was like, if you went into women, like what would you ask? It would probably not be the Roman Empire, it would be like the Tudors.
The Tudors, yeah. Yeah. But I also get a bit like, I get a bit pissy about it because it's not the Tudors. It's how many times do you think about Henry VIII?
Yeah.
And his wives.
We aren't thinking about Henry VII. We aren't thinking about Arthur.
We're not
Let's
thinking
talk about Catherine.
We're not even thinking about Mary.
Yeah.
Mary is a fascinating Tudor. She is so interesting. Like, I'm sorry. Like, why are we... And yes, possibly, like, we think about Elizabeth II most, maybe. But I think this is where you go into, like, if you're aware of Elizabeth and you're aware of her reign and the circumstances surrounding her reign, you're definitely down the level of like, okay, I'm really interested in the Tudors now.
Yeah.
You know, we look at the Tudors and it's Henry VIII and his 6 wives, the musical, the books,
the films, the TV shows,
the TV shows, all this kind of thing. And it's a broad period. The Tudors are a family.
but what's so fascinating to me is that Cliff Davies was a historian of supposed like Tudor history, early modern history, English history at Oxford. God rest his soul, he passed away last year. But he was a very strong proponent of making a lot of fuss about the fact that the Tudor period is a complete invention of historians.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So he went back into the records, like during the time of Henry VII, Henry VIII, Mary, etc. The word Tudor to refer to the monarch was never used until Elizabeth. And it was only used a few times. Yes, it wasn't like the word, like the considering them like the Tudors, the Tudor dynasty, that like thinking about it in that framing, in that periodization of history, did not exist at the time, and didn't actually really truly exist until historians of the 20th century started really digging into their reign.
And I think this is fascinating because I don't think people know why. Why, like,
that's the question I don't have answers to. So I was trying to do a bit of a deep dive to try to figure out like where is the point in time when we started really classifying the Tudor period, but why is it in particular that the emphasis of the drama is Henry VIII? Understandably, Henry VIII broke with the Catholic Church. So that's one of the major reasons. But if you think about it, there's a lot of drama when it comes to his father. And
oh gosh, yes.
Like significantly so.
I mean, the whole premise, and I don't think people quite realize this. The reason the Tudors came into power is off the back of the War of the Roses.
Yep.
When the English monarch was the lineage of the English monarch was undetermined because it kept going between two families, the Tudors being one of them. And there was this big war, the War of the Roses, in which Henry VI won and claimed the crown from Richard III. I think I'm right. Yeah. And
is it Henry VI or VII?
I think it's just...
This is not my area of history, gal. Like
one of the Henrys, not the eighth. Not the eighth. I think it was actually Henry VI because I think he dies soon afterwards. And then
that makes sense.
Henry VII comes in. I think this is right. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the chat.
We need some Tudor historians up in here.
Tudor historians.
I mean, you're a late Tudor historian. I'm a Stuart.
You're well into the Stuart era. I'm an Elizabethan. I am not early Tudor at all. But yes, so essentially the Tudors come into power off the back of a war.
Yeah.
There is no lineage. There is no handing down of the crown from one person to another. This is a full-blown revolution. This is a coup. This is a siege. And
well, also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, no. And I don't think people realize how important that is because there are still people in Henry VIII's court that question his right to be king. And this continues.
Continuous conversation about illegitimacy.
From the beginning of the Tudor period, or the Tudor reign, all the way until the end of Elizabeth, into James. But it's all just... It's all there. It's always been there.
What's interesting is that Cliff Davies says... Actually, the reason they wouldn't have used the phrasing, like they wouldn't have framed it around the Tudors, is because that would have been a great embarrassment.
Correct.
The line that the family held is that, no, this was a union of the Lancasters and the Yorks, not, not this siege, not this overtaking, that asserting that the Tudors are the true monarch would have been to have a direct conversation about their right to reign.
Their right to reign. Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. But
I think that's so interesting. And again, it makes sense, right? As soon as you said, like, oh, we put on the name the Tudors, it makes so much sense because we're looking at, we're not looking at a period, we're looking at a lineage, we're looking at a family and a gene pool that existed in history. We're not necessarily looking at the early modern period in its entirety, because the early modern period is only a cover. The Tudors are in there, but it's not the whole picture. It's not the whole thing that we're seeing. And I find this so fascinating, because when you say to people, oh, you're an early modernist, that is the immediate thought that they make connection to. Is, you know, oh, you're looking at the Tudor period. No, not necessarily. And I think this is really fascinating. I think this can go into a debate about our imagination or reimagination of history in 21st century culture. And this can bleed into a lot of the discussions that we've been having. You and I have this discussion all the time, which I find so fascinating. This discussion about, for example, the adaptations that we are seeing of Wuthering Heights, Frankenstein, the Odyssey, adapting these periods of history and these stories for 21st century audience. And whether that's okay. I know that's a totally different discussion. No,
I do want to go there, but I also don't want to lose. There's one thread that I just want to quickly yank on.
Go back to your thread. Yeah.
So the two things that came up when I was reading about the periodization of the Tudors is first question that comes to mind is, did the average, agricultural worker, seamstress, etc., how aware were they of monarchical politics?
Yeah.
And how does that affect their day-to-day life? How does the coupling of this family as the predominant focus, or as the dominant focus of the past, how does that, I guess, divorce of understanding or questioning or having curiosity about how that was actually felt on the ground? I'm a social historian, so of course I'm curious about that. And the second is, if you are somebody that is obsessed with the Tudors, one thing that I implore you to consider is, how would you characterize what historians are in 100 years going to retroactively determine this period that we are living in? How will they have considered it? And how does that affect you? So, if somebody were to say, you are living in the Trumpian era, I would want to vomit.
Yeah.
And how do we characterize it? So, for example, if you said, we're in the era of techno-feudalism, or if we are in the era of techno-fascism, like, how does that affect you on the ground, thinking that that's how your experience is going to be perceived by a historian? And now I want you to think about, how does somebody living in the 16th century, how might they feel about you, retroactively placing these categories upon their experience, their time in which they lived. And also that a lot of the media and the perception of the Tudor past that we consume does not allow for space, or does not care about the average individual. And as a social historian, I'm always curious from the ground. I mean, we say, there's the bottom up history, then there's the top down. I think that binary is a bit frustrating, but it does provide a bit of context whereby you can start to see that the stories that we're interested in are always in connection to a political and economic elite. Sorry, this is like a little bit of a tangent, and I promise we will bring it back. But so if you think about popular media, whether that's like, okay, the example that's coming up for me is the Downton Abbey.
Yes.
So the thing that was supposedly revolutionary about Downton Abbey is that it's showing the people working in the house in addition to the family itself.
Yes.
It's still in connection to the family. The importance of the porter, the importance of the cook is in relation to their service provided for an economic and social elite.
Hence why it's called Downton Abbey, right? It's not called In the Kitchen.
Yes. And there are more shows that show, and are focused on those below ground level, but it's still always like somehow in connection to, whereas I think, when you see other forms of media that start to actually center, for example, a midwife, that's when we start to actually experience we get to experience and start to question the realities and the representations and potential falsehoods of the way that somebody that was servicing the general public, how it is that they experience that time.
I think this is why I really enjoy studying Spencer, is because he's not a part of that political elite. He is a working class dude that does kind of file up the ranks, but he's a secretary. He's not he's not born into wealth. He's not born into aristocracy. He makes his way up the ranks. Yes, he does. And he is able to exhibit a certain amount of power later on in life from accumulating wealth. And obviously what we're also very clear is that he is a white male living in this world. So but even that framing is so interesting. Like, in that time, it wouldn't have been a classification of this is a white exactly working class guy. No, absolutely. And I think what I come back to, the reason I found Spencer so fascinating when I started studying him, and the reason that I've continued looking at the female villains in The Fairy Queen, is because he is not afraid to criticize Elizabeth. He is not afraid to say, you need to be cautious about how you wield power. You need to be aware of all these kind of things. He does give us in his poetry, he does give almost, and I'm not saying he gives a representative voice, but he gives a different voice.
Yeah.
He gives us a voice of someone who is saying, yes, you're my queen, you are the most high, the most mighty. I honor and revere you as queen, etc., etc. However, I'm going to build in to this poem a means of saying, of cautionary tale of, this is what I'm seeing on the ground. What we're seeing with Spencer's experience is his work in Ireland is where he is facing all the revolt of Catholicism. He is facing the revolt from the Irish. He is facing, he is dealing with the Spanish Armada. He is dealing with forces that are attempting to get onto English soil to overthrow Elizabeth. That is what he is facing on the day to day. And so he's a frontliner in a sense, he's not a soldier, but he works for Lord Deputy Grey, who is a soldier and is a militant, and so he's sitting on the front line of this, and this is influencing his writing very, very evidently. And I think this is where I always come back to it. I think this is the reason I end up coming back to Spencer and I end up coming back to Elizabeth, is because he does he almost acts in a way of like, this is the first kind of critical discourse that we're starting to see around politics that's accepted by Elizabeth. And so it's interesting to me when you were asking the question of, you know, how are people perceiving the monarchs? How are people seeing their king and their queen in the Tudor period? And we don't really know, because literacy rates at this point are not great. We are getting the introduction of the printing press, which is starting to, you know, circulate pamphlets. Under Elizabeth, yes, not under Henry. But, you know, we are starting to see that. We're starting to see a lot of pageantry that comes out of the Tudor period. This is, again, off the back of a propaganda to prove that they deserve to be in the space. So we get a lot of pageantry that's shown off to people. But people aren't getting an opportunity to actually question what's going on. Yes, maybe within their own homes and things like that, but ultimately people are just getting on with their lives. They're trying to do the best they can and getting on with their lives. It's very difficult for them to engage in that discourse, very difficult for them to engage in questioning what's happening. And I think in many ways, if we flip that onto its back and we look at the way we engage with our political structures today, our society today, we can engage in that discourse. We absolutely should be engaging in that discourse. Mm-hmm. We should be questioning our politicians. We should be saying why we have so much more avenues and opportunities to do so. Yeah. There is no reason to be a bystander in today's society. Mm-hmm. I tangented. I'm going to dive back into the Tudor period.
No, I think it's an important thread. I think the part of the reason you and I wanted to have this podcast and have the space to have these discussions is that the past, the present, the reasons that certain periods get so much emphasis, there are threads and themes and people and attitudes that are important to parse out. You know, the thing that's important as humanists is to be good at pattern recognition. Yeah. And I'm so curious, like what it is specifically about the Tudors that draws so much of our attention.
My 2-cent opinion on it is the pull of the Renaissance. I mean, and I have to admit that this is, you know, a completely biased view because I find it very fascinating, obviously. But what's happening not just in England, but in European society at this point is a introduction of that questioning discourse. We're seeing it in Italy, especially. We're seeing it in the Nordic countries and the Germanic countries. We're seeing ordinary people, working class people, questioning the structures of power. Mm-hmm. And in questioning those structures of power, they are going around and they are educating the masses. They're talking to people. They're asking them to think about the state in which they find themselves in their societies. And so there's almost a shift in power dynamics that we see in this period. We start to see that the top-heavy power is starting to leak through. We're starting to get people that are coming forward, questioning power structures and showing those cracks and allowing that power to kind of leak through down into the everyday man. I always think about this in terms of Dante, because Dante he was born into aristocracy. He was, if I'm remembering correctly, he was an orphan. He had no family connections or anything like that. And he just started writing and questioning and writing some more. And I find myself intrigued by this, and maybe the fascination that we have with the Tudor period is something that we don't really realize we have a fascination with, in that there is a sense of a reframing away from the authority to the individual, to the, and we're embracing humanist thinking. We're moving away from kings and the church to what does the individual think? What does the individual believe and think and can argue for? And in a similar way, Henry does this. He questions why he has to be under the Roman yoke. He breaks away. Yes, he does it for not exactly moral reasons, but he does. He breaks away from the church. He develops the Church of England. He assumes his place as, God's representation on earth, and he makes a break. I think what he does indirectly is he makes people see that if Henry could break away from the Catholic Church, from the influence of the Vatican, of Rome, why can't an ordinary person do the same? That's always what I come back to. I always come back to this idea that I don't think he realized what he started.
Yeah.
I think he started the sense, but even if you look at Mary overhauls everything that Henry does, takes England back into a Catholic state, and reinstitutionalizes it, marries Philip. All of a sudden, England is back under Roman and Spanish authority. And then a couple of years later, Elizabeth comes in and does the exact opposite. She pivots 180. Those power structures, if you can shift them so quickly, they must be valuable.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
So what's so interesting to me is so there was a question in a seminar at Yale. I can't remember the book. I remember it was my first year, and it was in a laws of European Empire, European empires in law. And someone had presented this source that basically made an argument that the popular perception of Henry's decision to break with the church was that way he could divorce Catherine and marry Anne Boleyn. And
it's not the essentially whole story.
No, it's not the whole story. And so the source, what was so fascinating to me and what I find really just so exciting about studying history is that the simplistic answer is what we as a public, unfortunately, just take at face value, and we're like, that's the reason. Versus thinking about how, and very similar arguments that are made in any kind of revolution, that, for example, the English had very little representation in Rome, had very little representation for the rights and the needs of the English public and the English crown. And this one source had essentially identified that another potential facet of his reasoning was that Spain and Portugal had been given I need to double check the timing of it, but essentially they were given this this contract by the Roman Church to basically say the New World belongs to you guys. You guys could divvy it up. Here's the dividing line. Spain, you can have here. Portugal, you can have here. England, you get nothing.
I mean, at this point, England's also, and I have to double check my dates as well on this because I find this so fascinating. But at this point, England's not a very strong naval country.
No, not at all.
Not at all. It's actually, in comparison to the Spanish, quite insignificant, quite weak.
Yeah.
And which is so fascinating. You would think that them being an island, that they would have.
Well, so what's so fascinating also is that I didn't know this, but when I came to the UK, I remember making a comment about the lack of trees. And my partner made this like just kind of flippant comment. He's like, it's just because of Henry VIII. I was like, what? And it's supposedly, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have to fact check, guys. I'm making this. My sources are not cited. I will do a deeper dive to figure out if this is entirely true. But this could be conjecture. I don't know. Essentially, that Henry VIII had sponsored the erecting of a bunch of ships in an attempt to become a military power on the sea. And that actually it made it that way. A lot of the I think it's oak. I can't remember exactly, but there's like one particular type of wood that was like actually quite strong that they essentially decimated because of this attempt to build these ships. And yeah, it's just fascinating.
So cool if that's true. Like
I'm now gonna do a little bit more research. So guys, check the footnotes. I promise I will do a little bit of digging and to actually check if this is true. But yeah, I mean, there's also all these other instances. I remember, I think it's in Black Tudors by Miranda Kaufman, talking about how there was a ship that was built that they had actually put out into the harbor in London, out on the Thames, and it just sank.
Just sank straight away. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so like the engineering capacity of the English under Henry VIII was just right shit.
This is so interesting. I mean, I think this is so fascinating because ultimately we can make conjecture about the fact that the Tudor period was, you know, a lot of different things. But it actually, I think what's coming through for this discussion from me, from our discussion here, for me, is that there is a lot of change that's happening.
Yeah.
There is a lot of shift that is happening. I mean, if we look just before the early modern period, we're looking medieval England and medieval Europe, which is an interesting period to look at, but doesn't really present with a huge amount of change in...
You're going to piss off some medievalists, babe.
I know.
Well, I think it's the thing that's fascinating to me is like, this is the era of the global turn.
Yes,
like this is
where what I'm trying to say. Yes, exactly. Yes. We're having a lot of big changes that are happening.
Yes.
And big changes that are prompting a shift in our perceptions, a shift in our society, a shift in the power dynamics that are existing. Yes, my deepest apologies to medievalists.
No, because I think the concept of change, what I find really fascinating in historicizing the concept of change is that, you know, retroactively in looking back at especially the 17th century, but, you know, even going back into the 16th and you can argue the late 15th century, the desire to discover, conquer, colonize, the rest of the world, and having the technology that made that possible changes our entire framing of the way that even an individual will experience those changes. So what I'll give you a specific example. So one of the things that I'm looking at in my first chapter is, in London, how does an individual perceive the new presence of, I argue, a significant number. Historians might argue a statistically insignificant number. I disagree, but essentially you have 1% of the population in London that is immigrant, that is particularly immigrant from Northern and West Africa. And you're not only having the monarch involved in these conversations about what's going to happen across the sea and how it is that we're going to get involved in, you know, these essentially the beginning, the burgeoning of geopolitics, that it is actually affecting you on the ground. Because now the community in which you exist, there's new demand on technology, there's new demand on certain types of cloth that needs to be made. The people that are within your community are changing. You know, London, especially under Elizabeth, saw a massive shift, not just in immigrants, but also the mass exodus of agricultural workers moving into cities because like cloth production and wool production had collapsed in the mid 16th century. And so like that's what I find really fascinating about what we call the Tudor period. And we have, I think, what's the argument that I've made in the past, and I'll make it again, is that I think that there is a certain degree of harm in historical inaccuracy, and we can have that conversation on another day, and we can go into depth. But I also argue it is a door. Like the popular histories that have been made available, The Other Boleyn Girl, which is rife with issues, gave us an in which we began to ask questions about accuracy, about those individuals, about, are there other people in this story that actually are not visible? Are, you know, what was the perception of what was going on in the court, you know, from a layman that lives near and by Hampton Court, for example. I think that there is a great degree of responsibility that popular history has to presenting that doorway. And there are many ways in which I think that responsibility is handled without care, or is handled in such a way where they are not aware or refuse to be aware that they have that responsibility. But I also think that as academic historians, as academic scholars, you know, trained in the academy, we also have a bit of a responsibility to not essentially like poo-poo the popular history.
Quite right.
Because it's what brings people to us. And what we need to do is, and I said this in my talk in Oxford, is that we need to be able to build the bridge.
Yes, quite right. I always come back. I wrote this article on Substack off the back of when you and I went to go and see Wuthering Heights, for instance. And it is essentially that question of we need to create that bridge. We need to create that interest. We need to open that door.
Yes.
And in opening that door, and I think this kind of it circles back to this, the whole discussion that's happening around Emily Wilson's review. And in opening that door, you are opening yourselves into a space of entering that discourse and entering what is being said and formulating your own opinion. So long as you have worked through all of the arguments and you can feel confident in your stance and in your opinion on this. Another thing that I just want to throw in here, because I think it's so important, and I think it's something that I hope the humanities is adapting more and more, is this idea of interdisciplinarity.
Yeah.
Because I do not believe that we could look at these historical periods, that we could look at the Tudors, for instance, rich in resources, and see aspects of events in there in isolation.
Yes.
We can't look at the portraits, for example, of Elizabeth without considering the historical dynamic in which she is existing. We cannot look at the history of Henry VIII's wives without understanding, for example, that the questions of succession that are being shown in Shakespeare's plays, for instance, are things that are continuing in the narrative from centuries before. Without understanding that broader historical context, it's very, very difficult for us to formulate an entirely whole opinion. But it's also the beauty of walking through that door.
Yeah.
It's the fun in walking through that door. It's the fun in saying, I'm going to look at this from whichever way that I want to. And I just think that is the coolest thing that we can do. It's something I'm so looking forward to for our accepted Academy launch in September. Just as looking at this idea of this interdisciplinary study, I think it's something that we don't give enough credence to, and I'm so excited to dive into that.
Well, I think that is a fantastic place to go ahead and close our discussion about why is everyone so obsessed with the Tudors. We would love to have your opinions in the comment section, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you are observing this on Substack. This is obviously also available on Spotify and other platforms. So please be sure to let us know how you thought this conversation went, if there's any information you would like to add to the debate. And we are finally going to move on to our letterbox, because we do actually have some questions this time. So the letterbox essentially is a place for our listeners to submit questions for us to answer every week. So I'll start with the question. Kate, I think this is like the perfect question for you to answer. Why is writing by hand more associated as a deliberate practice than typing on a keyboard, even though these two things have the same outcome? The studies show.
Hold my beer. No. I think it actually comes down to the idea of slowing down. Technology today is really, really amazing. We can type so quickly. We can put our thoughts down onto a piece of paper very, very quickly. And I think most people today can type a lot faster than they can write. I think the idea of writing by hand slows down your thought process.
Yeah.
And in slowing down the thought process, you're doing two very deliberate things. One, you are allowing the messy thoughts to come forward. You are allowing yourself to think about those thoughts. You're allowing yourself to see what works, what doesn't work. You're allowing yourself to really understand which way you want to go in terms of your thinking process. The second thing that you're doing is that you are creating a space for discovery. You're creating a space in which you are allowing your thoughts to come through in a slow and deliberate manner. And in society where we are constantly fed information, I think this is why a lot of people have a lot of shower thoughts these days, is because can't exactly take your phone into the shower, right? So you can't take any form of technology into the shower. When your brain is shut off from those stimuli, you do have your thoughts coming forward. Your brain is resetting and you're having thoughts that are coming forward. And I find a very similar process happens when I sit down to write.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm not distracted by what's on the screen, because it's very easy for me to click out of the Word document that I'm writing and go onto the internet or check my emails or go onto social media. It's one click. That's it. There's no kind of resistance. But if I'm sitting with a blank page in front of me and I'm writing down, my thoughts are coming to the forefront in my brain from that slow, deliberate, rhythmic action of actually writing.
I also think it happens. It's not even just that I think, I observe, and also there are studies to show that it also happens in the reverse, that by writing, you are retaining that information and being able to then process it in a way that is stunted by you typing it out. You know, we see this with studies that show that taking notes in a lecture means that you're going to absorb and be able to work with that information later on. Your retention improves over taking notes by typing them.
Yeah,
and
quite right.
Even for example, I've even found that writing on my iPad, there's a difference in being able to actually write on physical paper that, in a way, like, I think it's because it gets locked. It gets like, it's flattened. It's in a document that you can easily scroll. Whereas I have to remember where it is in the notebook.
So right. Yeah.
And then I have to, you know, you're creating spatial awareness in the physical format, in which you're placing your words.
So right. So right. I think that's so true to it, because, you know, I also find people have a fear of the blank page. And I think it's very interesting to have a fear of a blank page, particularly a blank document, because everything is written. When you type, everything is neat and tidy, and the lines are right, and your spacing's right, and the writing is neatly done. The font is consistent. There's almost a sense of, like, when you're writing something in a document, you need to have it perfected.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when you go to write something, you haven't had the thought processes, which is where people find they have the writer's block.
I have started doing, like, I basically, whenever I'm writing a new paragraph or I'm writing a new section where I feel like I don't quite know where I want to go with this yet, I'll start writing by hand.
Yeah.
I'll start writing by hand, but eventually I'm like, oh, actually my thoughts are moving too quickly. I need to actually get into the document to keep typing this out. And I find that it's just such a helpful on-ramp.
Correct. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. If I can't figure out where to kick off a paragraph or a chapter or anything like that, I just pull out my notebook and I start writing it out. And then 90% of the time I write it out, and then I transcribe it back into my actual document. And yeah, I just think that process is very different. I think
I also find that I have less fear of, for example, I'll go into my notebook, and if I don't know what to write, I'll say, I don't know what to write today.
I don't know what to write.
And I'll write out, well, what am I trying to say?
Yes.
And then I'll just say it
start with that,
in natural prose, and eventually it starts becoming the academic language that can go into the document. Yeah.
I always start with that. I always start with that question. What am I trying to argue? What am I trying to say? What is my point?
Yeah.
And that's such a really good, like, kicking off point to get things going. Why is this important? Yeah.
All right. Well, if you would like to submit any questions to the letterbox, all you need to do is leave a question in the comment section on Substack or on YouTube, so that way I can add it to our notes so we can respond to them in the next episode. Thank you so much for whoever wrote this fabulous question for us to ponder. And that is officially the end of this week's podcast. However, we do have a few announcements. So we have our new back to school week sessions that we are going to be running on September, is it 4th and 5th or 3rd and 4th?
4th and 5th, yeah.
On September 4th and 5th. And these are going to be covering basically anything and everything you need to know in preparation for back to school. And this isn't just for students. This is specifically for everyone. Well, specifically for everyone. This is for everybody. This is for everyone who is a lifelong learner who wants to see how it is that they can create systems to express their ideas, to explore their research, and to prepare to go back to the classroom. So if you would like to join us, then all you have to do is be a member of Acceptance Society and to add an RSVP to the events that are currently on the Common Room page. So I'll have all the links down below, as well as a 7-day trial to join Acceptance Society. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you, Kate, for being a fabulous thought partner. And we'll see you guys next week on Wednesday.